So for this video, I'm going to be doing yet another Stephen King ranking video. Although this time around, it's not based off of just my opinion, it's actually based off of your opinion. And what I mean by that is that over the past week or so, I've been getting people to submit their top 5 favorite Stephen King books. And I've compiled all of the data, and now I have a collective Stephen King ranking. And I managed to poll a few amount of people. The sample size is 109 people, which is way more than I expected. And all of these different people that I've submitted have either come straight from my YouTube community page, where I posted on my YouTube channel and got subscribers to submit their top 5, or I did it in my Discord, and I did it in a few other Discords, such as Mike's Book Reviews and Criminali's Discord, because I can chat with a few people about Stephen King in there, so I decided to throw in them as well. So I got a lot more people than I expected, and I had to do a lot of data entries and all that stuff to keep up with it, but it was a lot of fun. And basically for this video, I'm going to be going over the results. And basically the way that I did this, like I said, I got people to submit their top 5, and I would assign points to each of those books. So the number 1 spot would get 5 points. The number 2 spot would get 4 points. The number 3 spot would get 3 points. The number 4 spot would get 2 points. And then their last spot, number 5, would get 1 point. So for example, I submitted my top 5. I did The Dead Zone, which I gave 5 points to. I submitted Misery, which I gave 4 points to. I submitted Different Seasons, which I gave 3 points to. I submitted If It Bleeds, which got 2 points, and The Drawing of the Three, which got 1 point. So yeah, I did that for 109 people. I would say like most of the people were able to submit 5 books. Some of them only submitted a few, like if they've only read a couple or maybe 3 or 4. So it's not exactly, like 109 times 5, but it's close enough. But yeah, basically for this video, I'm just going to jump right into it and go over all of the results. So before we start, comment down below what you think is going to be the winner. What do you think is going to be in the top 5? What do you think got the most first place votes? Like, which books were the most popular? Which books do you think didn't get any votes? Because there are definitely a lot of those, which I'm actually going to go over right now at the beginning. There was a total of 58 Stephen King books that were voted on somewhere in people's top 5. Which is a lot. It was a lot more than I was expecting, but there's still a great amount of Stephen King books that got 0 votes. So I'm just going to go ahead and quickly mention a bunch of those. So Cycle of the Werewolf, 0 votes. The Regulators, 0 votes. Dreamcatcher, surprising nobody, 0 votes. Black House, thank God, 0 votes. Song of Susanna was surprising. No one voted for it, but that's an underrated pick for me. But again, 0 votes. The Colorado Kid, 0 votes, which, not that surprising, but one of my personal favorites. Cell, surprising nobody. Finders Keepers, which kind of annoys me because, Mr. Mercedes and End of Watch, the other 2 books in the trilogy, got votes, but the best book, in my opinion, got 0 votes. Sleeping Beauties does not surprise me at all. Elevation, again, not very surprising. I don't think Nightmares and Dreamscapes got any votes either. The Bazaar of Bad Dreams, I don't believe got any votes either. And You Like It Darker, which, just came out. Not surprising at all that didn't get any votes. Also, Dance Macabre, no votes. And then, surprisingly enough, On Writing got 0 votes. I would have thought somebody would have voted for that. But, So if I missed a couple here and there, whatever. But those are generally the books that got 0 votes. Some of them are not surprising at all, like Cell and Dreamcatcher, whatever. But there were a few, like Song of Susanna, and then a couple of others. I was like, really, 0 votes? Especially when you look at some of the books that did get votes. But yeah, so we're just going to jump right into it here. So the bottom 3 here, number 56, 57, 58, all got 2 points and 1 vote, and that would be Everything's Eventual, The Outsider, which is kind of surprising, and Lisey's Story. So very low on the list. 3 people submitted it as their 4th favorite Stephen King book and got 2 points. The next 5 books all have 3 points, either 1 or 2 votes each, and that would be Gerald's Game, Holly, If It Bleeds, The Wind Through the Keyhole, and The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon. So not too surprising that these books are a little bit lower on the list. I would have liked to see If It Bleeds a little bit higher. One of those votes was for me. But yeah, overall, not too surprising. These next few books all got 4 points. Most of these were from 2 votes. One of these was 3 votes. The first one here is Fairy Tale, which, is surprising. But a few people did mention that they hadn't read like that many Stephen King books. So obviously, with a bunch of people submitting books, or submitting Stephen King books, and they haven't read as many, and this is kind of a newer release, it makes a little bit of sense. But it's kind of funny that Fairy Tale is not like dead last or got 0 votes because a lot of people didn't like it. But I thought that was interesting. So Fairy Tale with 4 points. Also 4 Past Midnight. We also have The Eyes of the Dragon, which only got 4 points, but it was voted on 3 times. So 3 people submitted it. The Running Man with 4 points, and Rage with 4 points. Again, not too surprising that these books are a little bit lower. Maybe The Eyes of the Dragon I thought would have gotten more votes, but, it is what it is. These next few votes got 5 points, either from, a few of these were first place votes. So it was just one person submitting it as their first place. One of those was Blaze, which is surprising that someone would say that that's their favorite, but I really like it, so I'm fine with it. End of Watch. End of Watch is someone's favorite Stephen King book. That's very surprising to me. Also, Full Dark, No Stars. It's not surprising that that's someone's favorite, but it is surprising that it only got 1 vote. So that's interesting. Joyland with 5 points from 2 votes. The Dark Half, 5 points, 3 votes. So 3 people voted for that. And then, very surprising, the Tommyknockers got 5 points from 1 person. So someone voted it as their favorite. So that's interesting. I was not expecting the Tommyknockers to make this list at all. Kind of like with Dreamcatcher, but, some people do really like it. So, These next few votes all have 6 points. We have Bag of Bones, which is a little surprising that it's this high. And so far, and this is like in the 30s, by the way. This is going to be 37 through 39. I probably should have been keeping up with the numbers here, but oh well. So we have Bag of Bones at 37 with 6 points, 2 votes. Wolves of the Kala, 6 points with 3 votes. Probably my least favorite Dark Tower novel, besides Went Through the Keyhole, which was a bit lower on the list. And then Insomnia with 6 points, 2 votes. So not too surprising so far. Maybe Wolves of the Kala, I don't know. But definitely let me know what y'all think about the list so far. Now we're going to jump into the books that have 7 points each. So we have Desperation at number 33, 7 points with 3 votes. And then we have Mr. Mercedes, 34, 7 votes. Or I'm sorry, 7 points with 4 votes. So 4 people voted for Mr. Mercedes. The Institute, 7 points with 3 votes. And Hearts in Atlantis, 7 points with 2 votes. I also wanted to go back and mention that Bag of Bones and Insomnia did both get first place votes. So I think it was just one person voted for first place and then another person voted for last place. So did want to quickly mention that. None of these books with 7 points got any first place votes. So it's just a mixture of people just having it in their top 5 somewhere. But yeah, not too surprising. I wasn't expecting any of these books to be super high. So not too surprising. We got one book with 8 points. I would have thought this book would have been much higher. That was Christine at number 32. 8 points, 4 votes. So yeah, a lot of people did vote for it, but not a lot of people put it very high on the list. So it was in a few people's top 5, but like not, up. And then we had a couple books with 9 points. One of them is very surprising. You might be surprised that this is cracked the top 30, but we have Roadwork with 9 points and only 2 votes. So 2 of those votes were a first place vote and a second place vote. So very surprising. I love Roadwork. I did not put it in my top 5, but 2 people did. Very high, so pretty interesting. And then the same thing with Skeleton Crew. 9 points, 2 votes. So 1 first place vote and 1 second place vote. I would have thought this would have been a little bit higher. I would have thought more people would have voted for it, but only 2 people. Interesting enough. There are Stephen King collections that are a bit higher, so if you're wondering about that. look forward to that on the list. This one saddens me a little bit because it is my least favorite Stephen King book. Number 29, we have The Talisman with 11 points and 4 votes. No first place votes, which, you know, good. But yeah, The Talisman, that comes in at number 29. Then we have The Dark Tower, the final, chronologically in the series, book 7, at number 28, with 13 votes and 6 votes overall. That actually surprises me a little bit because I've, for whatever reason, I feel like that book lowers a little bit, and Wolves of the Kala, I feel like a lot of people really like that book, so a little bit interesting there. We have Dr. Sleep at number 27 with 14 points and 5 votes. No first place votes. Pretty solid for Dr. Sleep, one of my personal favorites. And then we also have The Gunslinger with 15 points, 6 votes, and no first place votes. That's actually a little higher than I thought it would be. I don't normally think of The Gunslinger as being like someone's, all-time favorite Dark Tower book, but a few people, really like it and put it in their top 5. And then we're cracking into the top 25 with the highest rated short story collection, and that would of course be Night Shift, which is great because that's my personal favorite short story collection. And that scored 15 points and it had 9 votes. So a lot of people put Night Shift in, well, not a lot of people, but relatively speaking to the rest of these lower books, a lot of people did really like it and put it in their top 5. No first place votes, which I'm not too surprised about because usually it would go to a novel. But yeah, 9 people voted for that. And then we have number 24 with 17 points and 8 points, and it did get 1 first place vote. Revival I would probably put in my top 10, so interesting that it's a little bit lower. It might just be that not enough people have read it, but the people who did read it did really enjoy it. And then we have a newer entry for Stephen King. We have Later, which scored 18 points and was voted 7 times. No first place votes. So that makes sense because, when I started BookTube, a lot of people were reading Stephen King for the first time, and Later just came out. So it makes sense that maybe some of my subscribers and then subscribers from maybe Mike and Criminale, a lot of people read Later and really liked it. So not too surprised that it's a bit higher. And then for number 22, we have Firestarter with 19 points. Nice. And with 7 people voted, and then 2 people actually put it as their first place. So that really helped it bump up a little bit. 22 makes sense here. Maybe I thought it would crack into the top 20, but it's relatively close, so that makes sense. We have Under the Dome with 20 points, and 6 people voted for it, and we had 1 first place vote. Not too surprising. I know a lot of people love it. For me, the ending is really bad, but the rest of the novel is good. I wasn't really expecting it to crack the top. Oh, actually, it's just under the top 20, so 21. And then kind of like with Later, this is another newer release that probably a lot of people read and enjoyed, and it's still kind of fresh in their mind. I know a lot of people were commenting like, oh, these are the ones that I read Stephen King a long time ago, but this is the ones that I remember. So I do think that plays a factor too, like memory of the books. So cracking into the top 20, we have Billy Summers with 21 points, 8 votes, and 1 person voted it as their favorite. So Billy Summers cracking into the top 20, I was not expecting, because you got books like Firestarter and Christine down here, and Skeleton Crew that I thought would have maybe cracked the top 20, but interesting enough. Then we have another Dark Tower novel. This is, they got the 3rd place vote for Dark Tower, if you're going to keep up with that. Number 19, which is very fitting for a Dark Tower novel to get. Got 23 points, got 8 people who voted for it. No first place votes, which surprises me because I've definitely heard that The Wastelands is a fan favorite. Like, it's one of my favorites. I thought it would have gotten a few first place votes, but that went to another series, or another entry into the series, which we'll get a little bit later on in the video. We have number 18, Carrie, which I'm glad that made the top 20, with 23 points, tied with The Wastelands. Also, 8 people voted for it. It did get one first place vote, so that's interesting. Someone's favorite Stephen King novel of all time. Definitely one of my favorites. I'd put it somewhere in my top 15 or so. Excellent. Obviously, Stephen King's first published novel. I'm glad it cracked into the top 20. And then we have Cujo, which kind of surprises me a little bit because, you know, I've heard people say that it's overrated and that, you know, the first half of the novel is kind of boring. But I really like it, and I'm glad that other people like it as well. It's number 17 on the list with 24 points. Again, 8 people submitted for it and 1 first place vote. So pretty good. And then I'm really glad that this cracked into the top 20 because I think it's really underrated. And I think it goes to show that for the people who do read it, they do really enjoy it. And that would be Doohickey at number 16. 25 points, 9 votes overall, and 1 first place vote. So definitely glad that that made it. This next one is a Richard Bachman book, and this one was definitely the one that I was expecting to be the highest rated Bachman book. I wasn't quite expecting it to make the top 15, but it definitely did. We have The Long Walk at number 15 with 30 points, 10 votes overall, and 3 people voted it as their favorite. So that's pretty interesting. So that's 15 points right off the bat. So that really helped this boost it up. I wasn't expecting it to make it this high, like maybe top 25 or so, but yeah, The Long Walk. People love it. Then we have another Dark Tower novel, and this is not only the second Dark Tower book in the series, it's also the second highest rated Dark Tower novel on the list here. And that would be The Drawing of the Three at number 14 with 32 votes. 32 points and 14 votes overall. No first place votes. Very surprised. But yeah, it's pretty high on the list. And of course, you probably know what's coming with the highest rated Dark Tower novel at this point. Not Song of Susanna. And then number 13, I was sad to see this not make the top 10, but I am glad that it's higher up on the list. And that would be can't even say my favorite Stephen King novel. It's The Dead Zone, my favorite Stephen King novel at number 13. 36 points, 15 people overall, so that's a pretty good chunk. And then, of course, 1 first place vote, which is me, because it's my favorite of all time. Yeah, I was hoping it would crack the top 10. It came pretty close, and you'll see why. But yeah, number 12, Different Seasons, obviously the highest rated novella collection. And yeah, just the highest rated collection. Yeah. Number 12 is Different Seasons with 43 points, 13 people overall, and 3 first place votes. So I was also expecting this to make the top 10, but it was a pretty tight finish for the top 10, as you'll see. And kind of tied with number 10 at number 10 and 11, we have, I'm just going to say it's a tie for 10th place because they're tied for points, but it's interesting to see like the variety here. Am I even making sense at this point? I'll just say tied for number 10, we have Dolores Claiborne and The Green Mile. So I don't know if it's fair to give an edge to one of these because they have the same points, but Dolores Claiborne does have more first place votes. So I'll break it down. So Dolores Claiborne, 44 points. Only 10 people voted for it, but of those 10 people, 6 people voted as their number 1 favorite. So that's a good chunk. And then Green Mile, 44 points, only had 4 first place votes, but it had 15 people submit for it. So more people put it in their top 5, but more people put Dolores Claiborne at the number 1 spot. So for right now, I'm just going to say that's a tie for the top 10. Both definitely deserving. If you're wondering, maybe there's some people that are surprised to see Dolores Claiborne this high up, but a few years ago on my Discord, a bunch of people buddy read Dolores Claiborne, and a lot of people just absolutely loved it and say that it's their favorite. So I'm not too surprised. Maybe some people are, but it's definitely deserving in my mind. So that's cracking into the top 10 here. Now we're getting into the number 9 spot with Needful Things, which has 50 points. 15 people overall voted for it, and it has 4 first place votes. I'm not too surprised. Maybe a few of y'all will be, but it's an excellent Stephen King book. If you haven't read it, definitely check it out. Maybe slightly underrated, Maybe not at this point because a few people have been reading it and really calling it out as a fantastic Stephen King book. But yeah, I'm not too surprised. Made it into the top 10. And now for number 8, we get the highest rated Dark Tower book, which of course is Wizarding Glass. I was not expecting the disparity here. Like, I was expecting a lot of people to really enjoy it, but man, the difference between, Wizarding Glass and the Drawing of the Three, it has double the points. So Drawing of the Three had 32 points. Wizarding Glass has 64 points. Man. And 22 people voted for it. So it's, as far as this sample size goes, it's like by far people's favorite Dark Tower novel. And then funny enough, only 2 first place votes. But 22 people overall. That's a lot. But yeah, that's the highest rated Dark Tower novel of this sample size. Pretty interesting. And then in the top 7, it's probably pretty easy to figure out what they are if you use your powers of deduction. But the ordering, I think, is going to be interesting for some people. Number 7, we have Pet Sematary. Not surprising. 75 points overall. 23 people voted for it, and it got 4 first place votes. So not that surprising. For me personally, I think Pet Sematary is a tad overrated. Not one of my personal favorites, but I definitely was not surprised at all to see it this high up on the list. Number 6, I'm a little mad that it didn't crack the top 5. It was so close, but it's fine. Number 6 is Misery, my second favorite Stephen King novel of all time, personally. Got 86 points, 31 people voted for it, and it got 3 first place votes. So fairly close to making top 5, so I'm not too mad, but, so close. But yeah, I'm not surprised at all. Number 5, maybe surprising for some people, but definitely a lot of people were voting for this book. Salem's Lot at number 5 on the list. So in the top 5 here. 97 points overall. So 11 more points than Misery. With 32 people voting, and it had 8 first place votes. So a lot of people cite this as their favorite Stephen King books, which makes sense. I know a lot of people love it, so I was not surprised at all to see it in the top 10, but definitely maybe not surprised, but it's definitely interesting to see that it did just go over Misery. So, and then in the top 4, you probably already know what the top 4 books consist of, but the ordering might be a bit interesting. So number 4, we have a chunky book here. Which one is it though? It's 11/22/63 with, so just to recap, Salem's Lot got 97 points. 11/22/63 got 130 points, so sizable leap here. And we had 37 people vote for it, and we had 11 people cited as their favorite, so 11 first place votes. I was definitely expecting this to be top 3 because, you always get kind of a very similar top 3 with these kind of lists, but the number 3 spot just beat it out, which is kind of interesting. So yeah, number 4, 11/22/63 with 130 points. And then in the top 3, number 3, it's not one of the chunky books. We have The Shining, which got 132 points. So it only beat out 11/22/63 by 2 points. So very close. And when I was tallying the top, not the number 1 spot, but numbers 2 through 4 were flip-flopping back and forth the whole time. I would entry another thing and then whoop, 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 So yeah, number 3, The Shining, 132 points, just beat out 11/22/63 by 2 points. It got 42 votes overall, and it had 11 first place votes. So what I think happened is just more people have read The Shining, is what it seems to me. Because it got 5 more votes, but only 2 more points. So interesting in that area. And then, of course, we make it to the top 2, which are not surprising at all. The 2 chunky books, you probably know what's coming. Number 2 is The Stand, which had 143 points. So 11 more points than The Shining and 13 more points than 11/22/63. It had 43 votes overall. And again, for whatever reason, 11 first place votes, very exactly with all of these. But yeah, definitely not surprised at this top 5, really. It's just interesting that the ordering, because I would have expected 11/22/63 to get either the number 2 or 3 spot, and then the stand probably number 3. But yeah, that's how the cards laid out. The stand at number 2, 143 points, 43 votes overall out of 109 people, and 11 first place votes. And that, of course, leads us to the number 1 spot. Y'all already know what it is. I was definitely not surprised at all to see this as the winner. It's definitely interesting to see the disparity of points here. So just to recap, 11/22/63 got 130 points. The Shining got 132 points. The Stand got 143 points. But the number 1 overall winner for this sample size is, of course, It, with 204 points. So it got 61 more points than the Stand, and 56 people voted for it, which is over half of the sample size, and 22 first place votes. So clearly the winner here, and I was very much not surprised by this at all. But yeah, 56 people put it in their top 5, and 22 people cited as their favorite. So this is the overwhelming winner here. So yeah, definitely not surprised. But yeah, that is the ranking as of right now for this sample size. All right, so that is the Stephen King ranking based off of your guys' top 5 list that I compiled here. Definitely let me know what y'all think of this. This was a lot of fun just to get everyone's top 5, to see what was voted on, what wasn't voted on. And yeah, just to recap the top 10 here, we have It at number 1. Number 2 is The Stand. Number 3 is The Shining. Number 4 is 11/22/63. Number 5 is Salem's Lot. Number 6 is Misery. Number 7 is Pet Sematary. Number 8 is Wizard and Glass. Number 9 is Needful Things. And then a tie for the 10th spot is Dolores Claiborne and The Green Mile, both with 44 points. And then just some interesting things. Different Seasons just missed the top 10 with 43 points. The Dead Zone, again, my favorite, with 36 points. The Long Walk, pretty interestingly, made the top 15 with 30 points. The highest rated short story collection was Night Shift with 15 points. Roadwork somehow made it into the top 30, which I think is just hilarious. And then a couple of books, Skeleton Crew and Christine, a little lower than I would have imagined it being. And then we had a couple of people kind of randomly with first place votes for, like I said, Roadwork, Blaze got a first place vote, End of Watch, the Tommyknockers. So very interesting. And then definitely a couple of books that I was not expecting, Tommyknockers, Fairy Tale, Holly. But I mean, a lot of these were like higher, or a lot of these were newer books. So, And then a few books that I wish would have gotten more votes. If It Bleeds, The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon, and The Outsider. But yeah, overall, 58 books out of Stephen King's probably close to 80 books, like somewhere in the 70s. But yeah, we got 109 people to vote on this, which was crazy. I was not expecting that number. This took a long time to compile and to get all the stats ready. But it was definitely worth it. It was a lot of fun, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. And definitely let me know what y'all think of this ranking, and if you agree with the collective Stephen King ranking of Stephen King community here. But yeah, this was a lot of fun, and yeah, what is your favorite Stephen King book of all time, and where does it lie, if it does, on this ranking? So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and continue to subscribe to the Bookish Drummer Discord. If not already, go subscribe, please. And I have the Bookish Drummer Discord, where I compiled a lot of this stats along with other people's Discords. And yeah, I've got my Patreon link down below if you want to support me there, and my Amazon wish list if you want to buy me a book. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a fantastic day.